I've always been a light sleeper. I used to think it was just anxiety or the leftover residue of insomnia from my college days. But about 6 months ago, something changed. I didn't just wake up at every sound anymore. I started waking up somewhere else. It began small. The first night, I dreamed I was standing in an unfamiliar kitchen. The tile floor was black and white, checkered like a 1950s diner. I could smell burnt toast and stale coffee. When I looked down, I saw hands that weren't mine, broader, older. There was a wedding band on the ring finger. I remember jolting awake, gasping for air, my own bedroom, my own hands. I brushed it off as just a vivid dream. Maybe I'd seen the kitchen in a movie or scrolled past something online, but it didn't stop. The next night, I was back in that same kitchen. This time, I was sitting at a table, staring at a half-eaten breakfast. The newspaper headline read, "Local man found dead in park." I couldn't read the rest. My eyes were blurry, or maybe the dream was. I felt someone behind me, a woman's voice, saying, "Honey, are you okay?" And for a second, I felt this overwhelming wave of emotion. Love, fear, something unnameable. Then I woke up, back in my bed, sheets twisted around my legs. My phone said 3:03 a.m. Every night since then, it's gotten more real, longer, more detailed. I know the man's name now, Peter. He has a wife, Mara. He works at a hardware store. He drinks too much. He has a brother he doesn't talk to anymore. It's like I'm living his life while my body sleeps. At first, I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? But after weeks of these dreams, these visits, I had to know if Peter was real. So I searched, and I found him. There's a Peter H. in the next town over. Same house, same kitchen. I drove by it once. It was exactly as I'd seen it. The red mailbox, the peeling paint on the porch railing. Peter H. died 2 years ago. I don't know what's worse, that I'm dreaming about a dead man's life, or that each time I feel less like myself when I wake up. And last night was different. Last night, when I looked in the mirror in Peter's house, I saw his face, but his eyes were wide open, staring back like he knew I was there. I don't know how much longer I can keep sleeping. The next morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been standing at the foot of my bed all night. I kept replaying the dream in my head, that look Peter gave me. Like he recognized me, like he was waiting. At work, I was useless. My coworkers asked if I was sick. I just shrugged, saying I hadn't slept well. The truth is, I'm terrified to sleep, but I can't help it. Eventually, exhaustion drags me under. That night, I tried to stay awake with coffee and old movies. I made it to 3 a.m. before my eyelids grew heavy. When I finally passed out, I didn't wake up in my room. I was at a funeral. It was raining. I could feel it soaking through a too big black suit. I could smell wet grass and flowers, hear the preacher's low voice. I knew whose funeral it was. I didn't even have to look at the casket. Mara was there, standing a few feet away, her eyes red and puffy. She wasn't looking at the casket either. She was staring at me. She mouthed something, but the rain drowned it out. I took a step toward her, but the dream lurched. And suddenly, I was back in Peter's kitchen again. Only this time, the windows were boarded up. The smell was rancid, rotting food, maybe worse. The walls were covered in old photographs, pinned up like a collage. Peter's wedding, Peter holding a newborn baby, Peter laughing at a backyard barbecue. And in every single picture, his eyes looked directly at me. When I woke up, my pillow was wet. But it wasn't sweat. It smelled like rainwater. My fingernails were dirty, like I'd been digging in the mud. I don't know how much of this is dream anymore. I keep wondering, what if Peter isn't just showing me his life? What if he's trying to pull me into it? What if next time I don't wake up? I tried to find him, Peter. I needed to know if he was real or if I was losing my mind. First, I Googled his name. Nothing came up, just dozens of Peters who didn't match the face in my dreams. I scrolled for hours, desperate for any clue, an obituary, a mugshot, a social media profile. Nothing. But then I remembered the street sign I'd glimpsed that first night. Crescent Avenue. I searched for it. There were dozens across the country. I zoomed in on satellite images until my eyes burned, looking for the old white house with the sagging porch. After days of searching, I found it. It was like a punch to the chest. Same front steps, same cracked walkway. Google said it was in a small town 2 hours away. I don't know what I thought I'd do. Knock on the door and say, "Hey, I've been dreaming your life?" But I had to see it. I had to know. When I got there, it looked abandoned. The yard was overgrown with weeds up to my knees. The windows were covered in grime. A mailbox hung open, stuffed with yellowed letters. I stepped onto the porch. The wood groaned under my weight. I peered through a window, dust, cobwebs. A table with 3 chairs, one tipped over. The place looked like no one had lived there for years. I almost left then, but a flicker of movement inside made me freeze. I pressed my face closer to the glass. There, deep in the hallway, was a mirror, and in it, I saw him, Peter, standing behind me. I spun around. The porch was empty. My breath came in sharp gasps, clouding the glass. When I looked back inside, the mirror was empty too. Back home, sleep felt like poison. I tried everything: sleeping pills, staying with friends, even dozing in my car. It didn't matter. When my eyes closed, I was his. This time, I woke up in a car. Rain lashed the windshield. The wipers squealed back and forth. Peter's hands, my hands, gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I heard a voice in the passenger seat. It was Mara. "Peter, please," she whispered. Her voice was so close, I could feel her breath. "You don't have to do this." I turned to look at her, but before I could speak, something hit the car. A screech of metal, a flash of headlights, then darkness. I bolted upright in my bed, gasping for air. My chest ached like I'd been punched. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. "Don't fight it. He needs you to finish it." Finish what? I don't know how much more of this I can take, but every night, the dreams get longer. And every morning, I wake up more tired than before. What if there's no line anymore between my life and his? I called in sick for work 3 days in a row. I couldn't function. The line between waking and dreaming was paper thin. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror and swear it wasn't me. I'd see Peter's eyes instead, bloodshot, desperate, like he was begging me for something I couldn't understand. I kept going back to the house on Crescent Avenue. I'd park across the street for hours, engine idling, hoping to see what? Peter's ghost? Mara? On the 4th night, I brought bolt cutters. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the sense that if I didn't confront it, I'd go insane. The lock on the side door snapped easily. Inside, the air was stale and damp. The floors creaked beneath my feet. The smell of rotting wood and mildew was so strong I had to breathe through my sleeve. I found the mirror again, the one in the hallway. It felt like an old wound. My face, Peter's face, flickered in it as if the glass was water. Then I heard the whisper, "Help me." I spun around. Nothing. Just shadows. I touched the mirror. It was ice cold. My breath left a foggy print on the surface. For a heartbeat, I swear I felt a pull, like the glass wanted to swallow me whole. I stumbled upstairs. The steps moaned under my weight. At the end of the hallway was a door with peeling green paint, the same door I'd seen 100 times in my dreams. I pushed it open. The room was empty, almost. In the center of the floor, carved into the wood, was a single word: remember. I dropped to my knees, tracing the letters with shaking fingers. The air around me hummed, like distant static. That night, when I finally slept, the dream was different. I wasn't Peter. I was me. But I was in the same house, only it looked alive. The lights were on. Mara was in the kitchen, humming a lullaby. Peter sat at the table, head in his hands. I stepped closer. He looked up, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. "Please," he said. His voice cracked. "If you remember, you'll see it too." I wanted to ask what that meant, but the room started to tremble. The walls bled shadows that slithered along the ceiling. The lights flickered and popped, plunging us into darkness. And then, a face, just behind Peter's shoulder. Something hollow-eyed, grinning like it had been waiting centuries to be seen. I woke up screaming. Now I don't sleep at all. Coffee, energy drinks, cold showers, anything to keep my eyes open. But I can feel it pulling me back. There's something in that house, in him, and it wants me to remember. I lasted another week on caffeine and sheer panic. My friends stopped texting back. Work left voicemails I didn't listen to. My apartment looked like a crime scene. Empty coffee cups, blackout curtains duct taped to the windows, anything to keep the outside world away. Every time I nodded off, even for a second, I'd slip right back into his life. Or was it mine now, too? In one dream, Peter was standing on a bridge, wind howling around him. He looked at me, eyes hollowed out like someone had scooped the soul right out of him. He mouthed something, 3 words, behind the wall. I jerked awake, gasping for air. My apartment walls felt too close, pressing in on me. The shadows looked too deep, like they were listening. I went back to Crescent Avenue one last time. This time, I didn't sneak. I kicked the front door open. It slammed against the inside wall with a deafening crack. The air inside felt thicker, like breathing through wet cloth. The old house groaned under its own weight, floorboards whining with every step. I went straight to the upstairs room with the green door. The word "remember" was still carved into the floor. But now, in the moonlight, I saw it was more than that. Faint scratch marks surrounded it, like someone had clawed at the boards for hours. Behind the wall, I pressed my ear to the far wall. Silence, then the faintest echo, like a heartbeat. I found a rusted crowbar in the basement. My hands trembled as I wedged it into the seams. The drywall cracked and split with each pull. Behind it was nothing at first, just empty insulation. Then, tucked between the studs, wrapped in plastic, something solid. I dragged it out. It was a shoebox. Inside, Polaroid photos, dozens of them. Everyone showed Peter, but not just Peter. Sometimes he was alone, sometimes with Mara, and sometimes there was me, standing in the background, blurry, smiling, watching. I dropped the box, bile rising in my throat. This was impossible. These were decades old. Some were dated long before I was even born. In the last photo, Peter stood at that same green door, eyes wild. Behind him was that same face I'd seen in my dreams. Hollow eyes, bone-white grin. My reflection in the cracked hallway mirror flickered. For a moment, it wasn't my face. It was his, or its. A sound behind me, floorboards creaking. I spun around, breath caught in my chest. The hallway was empty, but I heard Peter's voice, whispering, "Remember." I turned back to the mirror. This time, my reflection was smiling. But I wasn't, and in its hand, the shoebox. I'm back at my apartment now. I don't know if I ever really left that house, or that life, or him. Every time I close my eyes, I see the wall, the photos, the grin. I think I was never just dreaming Peter's life. I think Peter was dreaming mine. And now, he's wide awake. I didn't go to work the next day, or the day after that. I didn't check my phone either. It didn't matter who was trying to reach me. All that mattered was the mirror, and the shoebox, and the voice that wouldn't leave my head. At night, I tried to stay awake. I chugged stale coffee until my stomach hurt. I taped my eyelids open with medical tape. I left every light on in my tiny apartment until the circuit breaker tripped. But sleep always won. This time, the dream was different. I wasn't in Peter's body, or mine. I was watching, floating, like a camera stuck in the corner of a room. Below me, Peter stood in the basement, the same basement I'd found the crowbar in. The walls wept black water. Mold crawled like veins through the concrete. He was screaming, clawing at his own skin, like there was something underneath. And then I heard a whisper, not Peter's voice, not mine. Something ancient and wet, like words spoken underwater. "You let me in." Peter dropped to his knees. The floor cracked open beneath him, a thin, jagged hole that oozed darkness. His body twisted unnaturally, as if the bones inside him were rearranging to fit something else. His head snapped up, eyes pitch black. He smiled at me. I woke up on the kitchen floor. My fingernails were bloody. There were scratches all over the inside of my front door, like I'd been trying to claw my way out instead of in. On the table was the shoebox, open, empty. I staggered to the bathroom, half expecting my reflection to be gone. It wasn't, but it was smiling. I tried to leave. I swear I did. I packed a bag, threw it into my car, and started driving toward the next state line. But the further I drove, the more the road folded back onto itself. Same gas station, same crooked stop sign, same deer crossing. When I glanced at the rearview mirror, I saw Peter sitting in my back seat. His grin was impossibly wide, teeth too many to count. I didn't look back again. Back in my apartment, the lights flicker on and off now, all by themselves. Sometimes they buzz in rhythm, like a heartbeat. Sometimes I hear tapping at the window, even though I live on the 10th floor. Sometimes I hear my own voice, whispering in the walls, asking questions I don't want answered. I called Mara once more. Desperate, her line went straight to voicemail. When I checked my messages the next morning, there was one from an unknown number. We're all awake now. Tonight, I'm sitting here with every mirror covered, every window locked, but I know it doesn't matter. Because when I sleep, he sleeps, and when I dream, he dreams. But when he wakes up, I don't know if I'm the one living his life, or if he's finally found a way to live mine. I started leaving a camera running while I slept. One of those old mini DV camcorders I found in a thrift store. analog, harder to hack, harder to glitch, or so I thought. The first night, the tape was blank. The second night, just static. But the third night, there was something. I watched myself crawl out of bed, eyes wide open, arms limp at my sides. Sleepwalking, maybe. Except it wasn't me. The thing wearing my skin dragged its feet to the bathroom mirror, stared into the glass for a long, silent minute. Then it spoke, but the voice wasn't mine. It was deeper, gurgling like something trying to remember how to use vocal cords. Open the door, let him in. The other you is hungry. When the reflection moved, the real me on camera didn't. The reflection smiled and waved. I went to Mara's place that morning. I banged on her door until her neighbor threatened to call the cops. She opened up eventually, hair a mess, eyes ringed with exhaustion. "You've seen him too, haven't you?" I said. She didn't answer. She just stepped aside, let me in. Her living room was filled with black trash bags taped over every window. Candles flickered on every surface, dripping wax onto plates and half-finished notebooks. On the wall, she'd pinned dozens of Polaroids, photos of people asleep in their beds, but with a second figure standing over them. Sometimes it was Peter. Sometimes it was me. Sometimes it was someone older. "He's not just you," Mara whispered, pulling a photo down. "He's all of us. Every time you sleep, he takes more. You can't run from him because you are him." I laughed. It sounded cracked, empty. "So what do we do? Never sleep again?" Mara's eyes glittered in the candlelight. "Or we find where he comes from. Cut the root." She pulled out an old journal, yellowed pages, scrawled diagrams of brains, eyes, doorways. At the back, an address. "Peter's house," she said. "Where it started. I didn't want to go back there, but I knew I would." We drove through the night. The roads were a blur, headlights cutting tunnels through fog that felt alive. When we reached Peter's neighborhood, every house on the block was dark, except his. One window on the second floor glowed faintly blue, like a TV stuck on static. Mara grabbed my arm. "If you see him, don't speak, don't listen. If he offers you anything, don't take it." Inside, the house smelled like mildew and rust. The air buzzed, almost electrical. In the basement, the concrete floor was cracked open, just like in my dream. We found the old mattress, the shoebox, a mirror with black tape peeling off its edges. In the corner, something moved. Peter was there, or what was left of him. His face was waxy, his eyes rolled back, mouth split into a grin that didn't look human. He beckoned to me, like a child, inviting me to crawl under the bed and hide from monsters. Except he was the monster. Behind him, the crack in the floor pulsed. I swear I heard it breathe. Mara whispered, "Do you see it?" I nodded, but I couldn't look away, because the thing wearing Peter's face was mouthing the same words over and over. "Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep." And for the first time in days, I felt tired, so tired. I don't remember kneeling. I don't remember leaning closer to Peter, or whatever was left of him, but I remember Mara's nails digging into my arm, trying to pull me back. "Wake up," she hissed in my ear. "Wake up!" But my eyes were open. They were always open. Peter's mouth twitched. A thin, oily voice poured out. "You can't wake up. You're not asleep. Not yet." The crack in the basement floor widened, splitting the concrete like paper. Something below shifted, a ripple of darkness that pulsed in time with my heartbeat. I felt it then, A presence, like a cold finger pressed against my spine. A thought that wasn't mine, whispering through my teeth. It's warm inside you. Let me in. Mara screamed. She was holding something, a shard of glass from the broken mirror. She pressed it into my palm. Look, she said. Look at yourself. I glanced down at the mirror shard. My reflection was wrong. My eyes were dark, hollowed out, a second pair, blinking behind mine like a parasite under skin. My lips moved, but I didn't feel them. Sleep, be me. Mara yanked me back, and the basement cracked louder, a sound like thunder underwater. The thing inside Peter's skin laughed, or maybe it screamed. I couldn't tell. It was both. Mara grabbed my face, forcing my eyes to hers. Do you want to wake up? She demanded. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Then run. She pushed me up the stairs. The air was thick, buzzing like 1,000 flies. Behind us, the basement floor gave a final, sickening crack. The smell, rust, mildew, and something sweet, rotting, filled my mouth. At the top of the stairs, I looked back one last time. Peter was gone. In his place, the dark thing crawled out of the floor, tall, thin, with my face stitched over its own. It raised a hand in a mock wave. Outside, the sky was gray. Not night, not morning, just the dead space in between. Mara was already in the car, screaming at me to drive. I stumbled in, slammed the door, turned the key. In the rearview mirror, the thing stood in the window, still waving. Mara whispered, It knows you now. It's going to follow you every time you close your eyes. I didn't answer. I just kept driving, 'cause sleep was no longer safe. And staying awake might be worse. We didn't go back to Mara's house. Didn't go to mine, either. We drove for hours, highway lines blurring into an endless ribbon of wet asphalt. Neither of us spoke much. The only sound was the low static hum from the car speakers, even though the radio was off. At a rundown rest stop, Mara finally made me pull over. We sat in the car, the engine ticking as it cooled. She looked so small in the passenger seat, hair stuck to her forehead with sweat. When did it start for you? She asked. I tried to remember. When did I stop dreaming my own dreams? After my dad died, I said. I don't know why I told her that part. Maybe because the truth tastes like blood when you say it out loud. I didn't want to be in my life anymore, so I guess I started borrowing someone else's. She gave a brittle laugh. It was never your choice. It finds people who are already cracked open. I stared out the windshield. The glass was fogged, but I swear I saw shapes moving just beyond the mist, thin outlines shifting, waiting. I said, What about you? Mara's eyes went distant. She touched the scar on her wrist. Same. My sister died when we were kids. I used to pretend she was just asleep, that she'd wake up and tell me her dreams. And then, she did. She shivered. Except they weren't her dreams. They were something else wearing her face. Silence filled the car like cold water. I wanted to believe this was just trauma, grief, two broken people making up stories to explain the cracks, but deep down I knew this was real. Something was hunting us when we slept, wearing our memories like a mask. Mara reached into her pocket, pulled out a battered Polaroid. She pressed it into my hand. It was a photo of me, except it wasn't. The man in the picture was older, his eyes sunken, a faint smile twisting his mouth. Behind him, in the blurry background, a tall shadow leaned over his shoulder. So faint, you'd almost miss it. That's you in 5 years, Mara said. Her voice cracked. I took that photo in a dream, but it wasn't just a dream. It's what it wants. I dropped the photo. What do we do? She reached across the console, gripped my hand so tight, her nails dug into my skin. We stay awake. We keep each other here. We don't close our eyes alone. Outside, the shapes moved closer. They pressed against the windows now, outlines warping the condensation. I glanced at the dashboard clock. 3:12 a.m., the same time I always slipped under, the same time I always woke up somewhere else. Mara leaned her head on my shoulder. "I'm so tired," she whispered. "Me too." I didn't say it out loud, but the thought burned through me. What if we can't fight it? What if sleep takes us anyway? I knew then, one day, we'd both drift off. Our bodies would stay, but our minds would wander down some dark hallway, following footprints that weren't ours. And when we woke up, maybe we wouldn't come back alone. In the distance, dawn was just a pale bruise on the horizon, but inside the car, it still felt like midnight. Mara squeezed my hand. "Promise me something," she said. "If I ever look like him, like the thing wearing me, don't wait. Don't try to save me." My voice cracked. "Mara." "Promise." I closed my eyes, just for a second. And when I opened them again, I swear I saw her reflection in the window, smiling a smile that wasn't hers. We spent the last hours of the night parked at that rest stop, headlights off, the world outside our windows, nothing but shifting shadows, and the occasional hum of distant trucks. Mara fell asleep first. She tried to fight it. We both did, but exhaustion always wins. Her head slipped from my shoulder to the window, breath fogging the glass. I stared at her reflection. For a while, it was just Mara. Then her mouth twitched. The corners of her lips curled up, too wide, too sharp. And in the dark glass, I saw it blink, not her, it. I grabbed her wrist, shaking her awake. "Mara, wake up, you promised." But the thing wearing her skin just smiled at me, eyes wide and bottomless. A voice that wasn't hers rasped from her lips. "You're next." I scrambled out of the car, falling onto the damp asphalt. The shadows that had been lurking on the edge of the lot drifted closer now. Shapes like figures, but too tall, too thin, too wrong. They surrounded the car, their heads tilting in perfect unison, like a pack of wolves studying their prey. I wanted to run, I wanted to scream, but my legs wouldn't move. I was so tired. The car door opened. Mara, or what used to be Mara, stepped out. Her smile stayed stitched to her face, too big for her bones. She reached a hand toward me, palm up. On her wrist, a fresh scar, my name carved into it. I felt my eyes grow heavy. The world flickered, like a dying light bulb. "Stay awake, stay awake." But the words fell apart in my mouth. As the shadows pressed in, I saw them clearer, each one a twisted version of me, different ages, different scars, all the lives I'd lived when I was supposed to be asleep. And they were all smiling. The last thing I felt was a cold hand on my cheek, and a voice, my voice, whispering in my ear, "Sleep tight." When they found the car the next morning, it was empty. No sign of me, no sign of Mara, just two sets of footprints leading away into the fog. Some nights, when the clock hits 3:12 a.m., they say you can hear footsteps outside your bedroom door. Footsteps that sound just like yours. Because once you live someone else's life, when you sleep, they learn how to live yours when you're awake.